Part 1, The Last Stand. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the stars, a single human battleship floated alone. The ship's name was Indomitable Will, and it was about to face the greatest battle in human history. Captain Han Jiwo stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes that had seen 20 years of war. Around him, his crew worked at their stations preparing for what seemed impossible. Through the main view screen, they could see them coming. 300 Vakrian warships moving like a swarm of angry insects toward their position. The Indomitable Will had been escorting civilian ships. 50,000 refugees from the colony of New Busan were running for their lives. When the Vakrian fleet appeared from nowhere, Captain Han made a choice. The civilian ships would run. The battleship would stay and fight. It would buy them time to escape. Commander Park Min-ho stood beside the captain. He was younger, with sharp features and quick eyes that missed nothing. He looked at the tactical display showing all 300 enemy ships. "They are spreading out to surround us," he said quietly. "Standard Vakrian attack pattern. They want to hit us from all sides at once." Lieutenant Choi Yuna sat at the weapons station. She was the youngest chief weapons officer in the fleet, only 28 years old. Her fingers moved across her controls, checking every gun, every missile, every defense system on the ship. "All weapons ready, Captain," she reported. "I count 312 enemy vessels. They outgun us 50 to 1. In the engineering section, deep inside the ship, Kang Daehyun watched his screens. The Singularity Drive hummed beneath his feet, a piece of technology that most aliens thought was impossible. Humans had built it anyway. That was what humans did. They made the impossible work. "Power levels are stable," he spoke into his communication device. "We can give them everything we have." Dr. Lee Suman prepared the medical bay. She had beds ready, medical supplies organized, and her team standing by. She had been a surgeon during the colony wars. She had seen terrible things. She would see them again today. But her hands were steady as she worked. On the bridge, an alarm sounded. The Vakrian fleet was hailing them. Captain Han nodded to his communications officer. A holographic image appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a Vakrian commander, tall and covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. "Human vessel." The Vakrian's voice was cold and mechanical through the translator. "You are alone. You are surrounded. You have no chance of survival. Surrender your ship now and we will let your crew live as prisoners." Captain Han stepped forward. "This is Captain Han Jiwoo of the Earth Defense Force Battleship Indomitable Will. We do not surrender. We do not abandon our people. You want this ship? Come and take it." The Vakrian commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You primitives understand nothing. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. Your entire species has existed in space for only 400. You are children playing with weapons you barely understand. I give you one final chance. Surrender or die." "Then we die," Han said simply. "But we will take as many of you with us as we can." The hologram flickered and vanished. Park Min-ho looked at his captain. "That was unwise. You made him angry." "Good," Han replied. "Angry commanders make mistakes." He turned to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was watching him. He knew that throughout the ship, 3,000 men and women were listening to his words. "Crew of the Indomitable Will, I will not lie to you. The odds are against us. Any person who wants to leave may take a life pod now. I will order no one to stay for this fight." The bridge was silent. No one moved. Then Lieutenant Yuna spoke. "Permission to speak freely, Captain." "Granted. With respect, sir, go to hell if you think we are leaving." Her voice was hard as steel. Around the bridge, others nodded. Someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, the entire bridge crew was standing, applauding their captain's offer to leave and refusing it. Park Min-ho checked his communicator. Reports came in from every section of the ship. Engineering, weapons, medical, life support, navigation. Every department reported the same thing. Not a single crew member was taking a life pod. All 3,000 were staying to fight. Captain Han felt something tight in his chest. Pride, perhaps. Or love for these people who trusted him. "Very well," he said, his voice rough. "Then we fight. And we show these Vakrians what humans are made of. We show them that we do not give up. We do not break. And we sure as hell do not run." "Captain," Park Min-ho said, "the civilian convoy has reached safe jump distance. They are entering slipspace now." On the tactical display, 50 dots representing civilian ships vanished as they jumped to faster-than-light travel. They were safe. The mission was complete. Good, Han said. Now we have nothing to worry about except surviving. He sat down in his command chair. Lieutenant Yuna, charge all weapons. Commander Park, maximum power to shields. Kang, give me everything the engines have. Dr. Lee, prepare for casualties. Throughout the ship, the crew moved into battle positions. Blast doors sealed. Emergency force fields activated. Damage control teams stood ready. The indomitable Will was as prepared as it could be. The Vakrian fleet began moving faster. They were done talking. 312 ships against 1. By every logical calculation, the humans should lose. The battleship should be destroyed in minutes. But there was something the Vakrians did not understand about humans. Logic was useful, but it was not everything. Humans had something else. They had stubbornness. They had the refusal to accept defeat. They had 3,000 people who had just chosen to die together rather than abandon their duty. Captain Han watched the enemy ships come closer. This is it, he said quietly. 50 enemy ships are breaking off from the main fleet. They will attack first to test our defenses. Let them come, Lieutenant Yuna said, her hands ready on her weapons controls. The first 50 Vakrian ships entered firing range. Their weapons began glowing with building energy. In seconds, they would fire. In seconds, the battle would begin. Captain Han Jiwoo took a deep breath. All crew, he said into the ship-wide communication system. This is your captain. Today we show the galaxy what one human ship can do. Today we remind the universe why they should fear us. Today we prove that humans never give up. Fight well. Die well if you must. But take them with you. The Vakrian ships opened fire. The space around the Indomitable Will lit up with plasma bolts and antimatter missiles. The battle for survival had begun. Part 3. The Storm of Fire. The Indomitable Will shook like a toy in the hands of an angry giant. The shields flared brilliant blue, then white, then red as they absorbed impossible amounts of energy. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. Crew members held onto their stations as the deck bucked beneath their feet. Shields at 58% and dropping. Commander Park Min-ho shouted over the noise. 45%. 37%. His voice remained steady even as he reported their approaching death. Captain, we cannot sustain this. If they keep firing like this, the shields will fail in 90 seconds. Captain Han Jiwoo held tight to his command chair. He had to think. There had to be a way to survive this. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. No one panicked. No one ran. They were professionals, and they trusted their captain to find a solution. Yuna, Han called out. Can you target them while we are taking this much fire? Lieutenant Choi Yuna's face was illuminated by her weapon displays. Yes, sir. Target locks are holding. But Captain, we are surrounded. No matter which direction we shoot, we hit enemies. A thin smile crossed Han's face. Exactly. Spin the ship, full rotation on all axes. Fire everything as we spin. If we are going to die, we take as many of them with us as possible. The Indomitable Will began to rotate. It spun on its central axis like a top while also tumbling end over end. As it spun, every weapon on the ship fired outward in all directions. Railguns, missile tubes, laser batteries, everything. The battleship became a spinning ball of destruction, spitting death in every direction at once. The effect was devastating. The Vakrian ships were packed closely together to concentrate their fire. They had not expected the human ship to start spinning wildly while firing in all directions. Tungsten rods, each moving at a significant fraction of light speed, tore through their formations. Missiles found targets. Laser beams cut across enemy hulls. Vakrian ships began exploding all around the Indomitable Will. 10 ships died, then 20, then 30. The enemy fleet scattered, trying to avoid the spinning death trap the human ship had become. 104 confirmed kills, Yuna reported. Her voice held fierce pride. We are down to 161 enemy ships. But the victory came with a price. An antimatter torpedo slipped through the shield's weakened section. It hit the ship's hull directly on decks 7 through 12. The explosion tore through metal and composite armor like tissue paper. Air rushed out into space. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut automatically, but not before 30 crew members were sucked out into the void. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, Park Min-ho reported. We have lost those sections. Emergency force fields are holding, but they are temporary. In the engineering section, Kang Daehyun felt the ship shudder around him. Alarms blared from a dozen systems. "I am losing power couplings on the port side," he said into his communicator. "Rerouting through secondary lines, but I cannot maintain this output forever." More hits got through the failing shields. The ship took damage across multiple sections. A plasma bolt melted through the number 3 shield generator. It exploded in a shower of sparks and molten metal. The shields weakened further. Another hit struck near the medical bay. The lights went out for 3 seconds before emergency power kicked in. Dr. Lee Suman and her team kept working in the darkness, their hands steady, their training taking over. When the lights returned, they were still performing surgery on wounded crew members. The casualties began mounting. Every few seconds, Park Min-ho received another report. Deck 9, 14 wounded. Deck 15, 7 dead, 20 injured. Engineering Section 2, major damage, casualties unknown. Captain Han listened to each report like a knife to his heart. These were his people, his crew. They were dying because of his decision to stay and fight, but he pushed the pain down deep inside. He could grieve later. Right now he had to command. "Kang," Han called to engineering. "I need more power to the shields. Whatever you can give me." Kang's voice came back strained. "Captain, I am giving you everything. If I push harder, the reactor will overload." "Then push it to the edge of overload," Han ordered. "Keep us alive for 5 more minutes. That is all I need." In his engineering station, Kang looked at his team. They were young men and women, some barely out of training. They looked scared but determined. "You heard the captain," he said. 5 more minutes. Let us give it to him." His fingers moved across the controls, pushing the singularity drive harder than it was ever designed to go. Power surged through the ship. The shield strengthened to 40%. It was not much, but it was enough to keep the hull from taking more direct hits. The indomitable will stopped spinning and steadied itself. The railguns kept firing with mechanical precision. More enemy ships died. The Vakrian fleet, which had started with 312 vessels, was now down to 140. But they were learning. They stopped clustering together. They maintained distance and fired from longer range. "Captain," Park Min-ho said quietly, "they have changed tactics. They are staying far away and bombarding us. We cannot close the distance fast enough. Our shields will eventually fail under this sustained fire." Han knew Park was right. The Vakrians had finally learned their lesson. They would no longer get close enough for the human railguns to be truly effective. They would sit at maximum range and slowly pound the indomitable will to pieces. It might take hours, but the result was inevitable. "Casualty report," Han asked, though he did not want to hear the answer. 247 dead, Park replied, his voice heavy. 612 wounded, many of them critical. 247 dead. 247 families who would never see their loved ones again. Han felt each death like a weight on his soul. He had known this would be costly, but knowing and experiencing were 2 different things. He stood from his command chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. His crew needed to hear from him. They needed to know their deaths meant something. "This is the captain," he said, and his voice carried to every corner of the ship. "We have lost many of our brothers and sisters today. 247 of our crew will not go home. I want you all to know that they died as heroes. They died protecting 50,000 civilians who are now safe. They died proving to the galaxy that humans do not surrender." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "We are still in this fight. Yes, we are damaged. Yes, we are surrounded. But we are still here. We are still fighting. And we are going to win. I promise you this. Every person we have lost will be honored. Their names will be remembered. Earth will know what we did here today. Now get back to your stations and show these aliens why they should fear humanity." Throughout the ship, the crew responded. In damaged sections, repair teams worked faster. In medical, Dr. Lee and her staff moved with renewed purpose. On the bridge, every officer sat straighter at their station. Kang Daehyun looked at his engineering displays and saw something strange. The singularity drive had been pushed so hard that it was creating unusual readings. The subspace field around the ship was fluctuating in ways it should not. He studied the data, his mind working through the physics. Then he saw it. A possibility. Something that might work. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. He activated his communicator to the bridge. "Captain Han, this is Kang. I need to speak with you immediately. I have an idea, but you are not going to like it." Captain Han looked at the tactical display showing 140 enemy ships slowly grinding them down. I am listening, Kang. At this point, I will take any idea you have. The singularity drive, Kang said, speaking quickly. We pushed it too hard. It created a temporary tear in subspace during our spinning maneuver. I can weaponize that. I can create a controlled subspace rupture that will engulf the entire enemy fleet. Can we survive it? Han asked. There was a pause. Maybe. The ship would be trapped in the rupture zone for 30 seconds. During that time, we would be defenseless and the structural stress would be enormous. If the hull fails, we all die. I calculate our chances of survival at about 20%. 20%. One chance in 5. Captain Han looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had already voted once to stay and fight. Would they vote to take this final risk? All senior staff, he said into his communicator. Report to the bridge immediately. We have a decision to make. Part 2. Humanity's Defiance. The first wave of enemy fire hit the indomitable will like a hammer. Plasma bolts, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a building, slammed into the ship's shields. Antimatter missiles exploded in brilliant flashes of destructive light. The bridge shook violently. Crew members grabbed their stations to stay standing. Shields holding at 92%, Commander Park Min-ho reported, his voice calm despite the chaos. The adaptive systems are working. They are analyzing the enemy weapon frequencies. Captain Han nodded. The shields were humanity's first surprise for the Vakrians. Unlike the static shields that most species used, human shields learned. Every time an enemy weapon hit them, the shields adapted. They changed their frequency to better resist that specific type of attack. It was technology that humans had developed because they always fought enemies with better weapons. They had learned to be clever instead of just strong. Lieutenant Yuna's fingers danced across her weapons controls. Railgun batteries charged and ready, Captain. Target locks confirmed on all 50 enemy ships. Fire, Han said simply. The indomitable will had 12 railgun batteries, 6 on each side of the ship. Each gun was as long as a football field. They did not fire energy or plasma like most alien weapons. They fired solid tungsten rods, each one weighing 2 tons. The guns used magnetic force to accelerate these rods to 30% of light speed. When Yuna pressed the firing button, all 12 guns spoke at once. The tungsten rods crossed the distance to the enemy ships in less than 2 seconds. The Vakrians had shields designed to deflect energy weapons. Their shields were very good at stopping plasma and lasers, but they were not designed to stop solid objects moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The first tungsten rod hit a Vakrian cruiser directly in the center. The shield flickered and failed. The rod punched through the ship's armor like it was paper. It went completely through the vessel from front to back. The cruiser exploded from the inside, torn apart by the kinetic energy. 11 more enemy ships died in the first salvo. They simply came apart, destroyed by weapons they had not expected. The remaining 38 Vakrian ships scattered, trying to avoid the next attack. 12 confirmed kills, Yuna reported, and there was savage satisfaction in her voice. Reloading. 20 seconds until we can fire again. In the engineering section, Kang De-hyun watched his power distribution screens. The railguns used enormous amounts of energy. He had to balance power between weapons, shields, engines, and life support. Routing power from non-essential systems, he reported to the bridge. Shields and weapons get priority. Throughout the ship, lights dimmed. The temperature dropped slightly as heating systems reduced power. Entertainment systems shut down completely. Every bit of energy was being directed to keeping the ship fighting. The remaining 38 ships from the first wave regrouped and attacked again. This time they were more careful, using evasive maneuvers and spreading out. Their plasma weapons fired continuously. The space around the indomitable will became a storm of deadly energy. Shields at 78%, Park Min-ho said. But they are adapting faster now. Each hit does less damage than the one before. Captain Han studied the tactical display. The first wave of 50 ships was reduced to 38. But behind them, the main Vakrian fleet was moving into position. 262 more ships were coming. Lieutenant, target their command patterns. Look for the ships that are giving orders. Yuna's eyes narrowed as she studied her screens. Humans had learned to fight by studying their enemies. The Vakrians fought in coordinated groups. That meant they had command ships that controlled the others. If you killed the command ships, the others would be confused. I see it, she said. There, that heavy cruiser is transmitting tactical data to the others. Kill it, Han ordered. The railguns fired again. 6 tungsten rods converged on the Vakrian command cruiser. The first rod destroyed its shields. The second and third ripped into its hull. The fourth and fifth hit its power core. The 6th rod was not necessary. The cruiser was already exploding. The effect was immediate. The 38 attacking ships suddenly lost their coordination. They stopped working together and started acting independently. It was the difference between a trained military unit and a group of individuals. Park Min-ho saw the opportunity instantly. "Captain, they are confused. Their formation is breaking apart." "Press the advantage," Han said. "Unifire at will." "Park, bring us about." "Kang, give me full engine power." The indomitable will began to move not away from the enemy but toward them. The battleship accelerated, and as it moved, its railguns kept firing. Every 20 seconds, another salvo of tungsten rods tore through space. Every salvo destroyed 3 or 4 more enemy ships. The Vakrians had never fought anyone like this before. For 10,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy. Other species fought them with energy weapons and plasma cannons. Those weapons were powerful, but the Vakrians knew how to defend against them. Humans fought differently. Humans used simple physics. Mass times velocity equals death. By the time the first wave was completely destroyed, the indomitable will had killed 47 enemy ships. The bridge crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration. Someone cheered. Others clapped Yuna on the back, but Captain Han did not celebrate. He looked at the tactical display and saw what was coming next. "Silence," he said, and the bridge became quiet. "We won the first round. But look at what is coming." The main Vakrian fleet was now in attack position. 265 ships formed a sphere around the human battleship. They were all around, above, below, on every side. There was nowhere to run even if they wanted to. A new hologram appeared on the bridge. It was the Vakrian Supreme Commander again, but this time he was not mocking them. His voice was filled with cold fury. "You have killed my warriors. You have destroyed my ships. For this you will suffer. I will take your ship apart piece by piece. Your crew will die slowly, and I will make sure Earth knows what happens to those who defy the Vakrian Empire." Captain Han met the alien's eyes. "You lost 50 ships to 1. How many more will you lose? How will you explain to your empire that one human battleship destroyed a fleet? Will they still fear the great Vakrians, or will they laugh at you?" The hologram flickered with rage and vanished. Park Min-ho looked at his captain. "You are trying to make him angry again." "An angry enemy makes mistakes," Han replied. "And we need them to make mistakes. Because we cannot fight 265 ships the same way we fought 50. He turned to his crew. "This is going to get bad. Dr. Lee, prepare for major casualties. All hands, secure your stations. They are going to hit us with everything they have." In the medical bay, Lee Suman and her team made final preparations. She had seen the casualty reports from other battles. She knew what was coming. The ship would take damage. People would be hurt, burned, crushed by falling debris. She would save as many as she could. That was all anyone could do. On the bridge, the alarms began sounding. The tactical display showed every enemy ship charging weapons simultaneously. 265 ships all preparing to fire at once. Lieutenant Yuna looked at her captain. Her face was pale but determined. "Captain, if they all fire together, our shields will not hold. We will take hull damage." "I know," Han said quietly. He gripped the arms of his command chair. "All crew, brace for impact. This is going to hurt." The Vakrian fleet opened fire as one. The space around the indomitable will turned white with destructive energy. 265 ships, all firing every weapon they had, all focused on one single target. The human battleship vanished inside a sphere of plasma and antimatter explosions. It looked like a star had been born in the middle of space. The light was so bright that the view screens automatically dimmed to protect human eyes. Inside that hell of fire and fury, the indomitable will fought to survive. Part 5. Humanity's Testament. The indomitable will drifted in silence among the debris field. The bridge crew sat at their stations, barely able to believe what had happened. They were alive. Against every calculation, against all probability, they had survived. Commander Park Min-ho was the first to break the silence. "Damage report coming in from all sections. Hull integrity is at 41%. We have breaches on 17 decks. Shields are completely offline. Weapon systems are at 30% capacity. Life support is functional but strained." Captain Hanjiwoo listened to each report with a heavy heart. "Casualties?" Park's voice became quieter. Final count is 891 dead, 1,204 wounded, 905 uninjured, 891. More than a quarter of his crew. Han closed his eyes for a moment. So many deaths. But 50,000 civilians were safe because of those deaths. He told himself it was worth it. He had to believe it was worth it. Send a message to Earth, Han ordered. Automated transmission. Include full battle telemetry, tactical data, and casualty lists. Make sure they know what happened here. Lieutenant Choi Yuna worked at her console. Message prepared and transmitting, Captain. It will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. In the engineering section, Kang Dae-hyun surveyed the damage to his beloved Singularity drive. The machine had been pushed far beyond its limits. It had held together, but just barely. We cannot make another jump to light speed, he reported to the bridge. The drive needs major repairs. We are stuck here until help arrives. How long can we survive on current power? Han asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if we ration carefully, Kang replied. After that, life support will fail. Dr. Lee Suman worked tirelessly in the medical bay. She had been operating continuously for hours. Her hands were steady, but her eyes showed exhaustion. She moved from patient to patient, making the critical decisions that doctors must make in war. Who could be saved? Who was beyond help? Who needed immediate treatment? Who could wait? Around her, the medical staff worked with the same dedication. They had lost colleagues in the battle. The medical bay itself had taken damage. But they kept working because people needed them. That was what doctors did. 3 days passed. The indomitable will continued to drift, making basic repairs where possible. The crew worked around the clock to stabilize damaged sections and restore critical systems. They buried their dead in the traditional way, launching the bodies into space with full honors. Captain Han spoke words over each one, promising that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. On the 3rd day, sensors detected ships approaching. The crew went on alert, weapons charging with what little power they had left. But Park Min-ho studied the sensor readings and smiled. Captain, those are human ships. It looks like a rescue fleet. 20 human vessels emerged from slip space. Cruisers, frigates, and supply ships all coming to help. But there were also other ships with them, civilian vessels. The refugee convoy from New Busan had returned. A communication came through. Battleship Indomitable Will. This is Captain Kwan of the rescue fleet. We received your transmission. The whole galaxy knows what you did here. You are heroes, every one of you. Behind the military ships came the civilian vessels. 50,000 refugees, the people that the Indomitable Will had saved, had insisted on coming back. They wanted to escort their saviors home. They brought supplies, medical equipment, and engineers to help with repairs. The rescue took 2 weeks. Slowly, the battered battleship was made spaceworthy again. The wounded were transferred to hospital ships. The dead were prepared for transport home. And finally, the Indomitable Will was ready to make the journey back to Earth. The return trip took 3 weeks. During that time, the story of the battle spread across human space. News networks broadcast the battle telemetry. People watched in amazement as one ship destroyed an entire fleet. The names of the crew became famous. Songs were written. Stories were told. When the Indomitable Will finally reached Earth, it was greeted by thousands of ships. Military vessels fired salutes. Civilian ships broadcast messages of thanks. The battleship, still showing its battle scars, limped into orbit to a hero's welcome. Captain Han Ji-woo and his crew were taken to Earth's surface for a formal ceremony. The President of the United Earth Government spoke to billions of viewers across all human worlds. Today we honor the crew of the Indomitable Will. 891 gave their lives. 2,109 survived. Together they showed the galaxy what humanity is capable of. They stood alone against impossible odds. They refused to surrender. They saved 50,000 innocent lives, and they destroyed an enemy that thought us weak. Medals were given. Promotions were awarded. Kang Dae-hyun was made Director of Advanced Weapons Research. His Singularity weapon would be installed on every human battleship. Lieutenant Yuna became the youngest ship captain in history, given command of a new vessel. Commander Park Min-ho was offered leadership of Earth's entire defense fleet. Dr. Lee Suman received the Humanitarian Medal of Valor for saving 1,089 lives during the battle. She used her fame to establish new trauma medicine protocols that were adopted across all human space. Captain Han Ji-woo was offered many positions. admiral of the fleet, governor of a colony world. Whatever he wanted, but he declined them all. "I am a ship captain," he said simply. "That is what I do best." But he did accept one responsibility. He became the primary instructor at the Naval Academy. He would teach the next generation of officers. He would make sure they understood what it meant to lead, to sacrifice, to stand firm when everything seemed lost. The indomitable Will itself was repaired and converted into a museum ship. It was placed in orbit around Earth where everyone could visit. People came from across human space to walk its corridors and see where history was made. Children touched the command chair where Captain Han had sat. Veterans stood silently in the medical bay, remembering their own wars. On the ship's outer hull, a memorial was placed. It listed all 891 names of those who died. The inscription read, "They stood alone so others could run free. They fought the many so the many could live. This is humanity's way." The battle had effects far beyond just the immediate victory. The Vakrian Empire, having lost its primary fleet, sued for peace. Other alien species that had considered attacking human space reconsidered their plans. Humanity went from being seen as weak newcomers to being recognized as a major galactic power. The doctrine of the human navy changed. Instead of building many small ships, they focused on fewer but more powerful vessels with elite crews. The idea was simple. One well-trained crew on a good ship was worth a dozen average ships with average crews. Quality over quantity became the human way of war. Every year on the anniversary of the battle, all human ships observed 1 minute of silence. Schools taught about the battle. Children learned the names of the crew. The date became known as Defiance Day across all human worlds. It was a reminder that humans do not give up. They do not surrender. They stand and fight no matter the odds. 50 years after the battle, an elderly Han Ji-woo visited the museum ship one last time. He was 85 years old now. His hair was completely white. He walked slowly, using a cane, but his eyes were still sharp and clear. He walked through the corridors alone. The museum staff recognized him and gave him privacy. He went to the bridge and stood at the command chair. He touched it gently, remembering. He could almost hear Park Min-ho giving tactical reports. Almost see Yuna at her weapons station. Almost feel the ship shaking under enemy fire. "Thank you," he whispered to the ship. "Thank you for bringing us home." He walked to the memorial on the outer hull. Through the transparent section, he could see all 891 names. He knew every single one. He had memorized them all. Every year on Defiance Day, he spoke each name aloud. It was his duty, his promise. As he stood there, a group of young naval cadets entered the observation deck. They wore the uniform of the academy. They were perhaps 20 years old, the same age Han had been when he first joined the Navy. They saw the old man standing at the memorial and recognized him immediately. The cadets came to attention and saluted. Han turned and looked at them. He saw himself in their young faces. The next generation, the ones who would protect humanity when his generation was gone. "At ease," he said with a gentle smile. "Are you here for the tour?" "Yes, sir," the lead cadet said. "We are first-year students at the academy. This is our introduction to naval history." "Then let me tell you something they might not teach in class," Han said. He gestured at the memorial. Every one of these names was a person. They had families. They had dreams. They were scared during the battle, just like you will be scared when your time comes. But they did their duty anyway. He looked directly at each cadet in turn. Being a hero is not about being unafraid. It is about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. It is about standing when every instinct tells you to run. That is what these people did. That is what you must be prepared to do. The cadets listened with complete attention. They would remember this moment for the rest of their lives. The day they met the legendary Captain Han Ji-woo and heard him speak. Part 4. The Singularity Gambit. The senior staff gathered on the bridge while the battle continued around them. The ship still shook from enemy fire. Alarms still blared. But Captain Han Ji-woo needed his command team together for this decision. It was too important to make alone. Kang Dae-hyun stood in front of a display screen showing technical diagrams that most people could not understand. His face was tired but intense. "The singularity drive creates a controlled tear in space-time," he explained. "When we pushed it to maximum power earlier, it created an unexpected side effect. For a brief moment, it opened a larger rupture than designed. Commander Park Min-ho studied the diagrams. And you want to make that rupture on purpose? To what end? The Vakrian ships are not built to handle subspace stress, Kang said. Their hulls will tear apart at the molecular level. It would destroy them all at once. Lieutenant Choi Yuna crossed her arms. What happens to us? Kang met her eyes. The indomitable will has singularity shielding because we use a singularity drive. We are the only ones who could survive, but barely. The rupture would last 30 seconds. During that time, the stress on our hull would be extreme. We would be completely defenseless. If any part of the ship fails, if the shields collapse, if the hull breaches, we all die instantly. Dr. Lee Suman spoke up. What are the odds of survival? 23%, Kang said honestly. And that is assuming everything works perfectly. The bridge was silent except for the sounds of battle. Park Min-ho was the first to speak. So we have two choices. We continue fighting like this and die slowly over the next few hours, or we take this risk and possibly die in 30 seconds. But if we survive those 30 seconds, we win. That is correct, Kang confirmed. Captain Han looked at each member of his senior staff. This is not an order. This is a choice. We vote on this together. If even one person votes no, we do not do it. We try to find another way. Park Min-ho spoke first. I vote yes. 23% is better than 0%. And dying quickly in a gamble is better than dying slowly from bombardment. Yuna nodded. Yes? I've been a weapons officer for 6 years. I know when we are out of options. This is our only chance. Dr. Lee was quiet for a moment. She thought about her medical bay, about the wounded crew members she was treating. If we die, at least we die trying to win. Yes. All eyes turned to Kang. He gave a tired smile. I propose the idea. Of course I vote yes. Though I should mention that if this goes wrong, we will not even know it. Death will be instantaneous. Captain Han nodded slowly. Then we are agreed. Kang, how long do you need to prepare? 15 minutes to modify the drive. I need to remove the safety limiters and recalibrate the field generators. It is delicate work. You have 10 minutes, Han said. Park, prepare the crew. I want everyone secured at their stations. Seal every bulkhead. Yuna, pre-program targeting solutions for every enemy ship. If we survive this, I want to be able to fire immediately after. The senior staff scattered to their duties. Kang ran to the engineering section, calling his team together. They worked frantically, removing safety systems that had been put in place to prevent exactly what they were about to do. Their hands moved with practiced skill, making adjustments that would either save them all or kill them all. On the bridge, Park Min-ho sent messages to every department. All crew, this is Commander Park. In 10 minutes, we are attempting a dangerous maneuver. Secure yourselves to your stations. Seal all blast doors. If you are not at a critical station, find something solid to hold on to. What happens next will test this ship beyond its design limits. Trust in the ship, trust in each other, and hold on. Throughout the indomitable will, crew members prepared. They strapped themselves into seats. They checked their safety harnesses. Some said prayers to various gods. Some simply held hands with the person next to them. They were scared, but they did not run. There was nowhere to run anyway. In the medical bay, Dr. Lee secured her patients as best she could. Some of them were unconscious. Others watched her with frightened eyes. You are all going to be fine, she lied to them with a kind smile. Just hold on tight for a few minutes. Lieutenant Yuna programmed her targeting computer. She entered firing solutions for all 140 remaining enemy ships. If they survived the next 30 seconds, those ships would be crippled or destroyed. The computer would fire automatically. Every railgun, every missile, every weapon would launch in one coordinated salvo. Captain Han sat in his command chair and activated the ship's recording system. If they failed, if they all died, this message would be automatically transmitted to Earth. This is Captain Han Jiwoo. Final entry. If you are hearing this, then we did not succeed. But know this, we fought well. We destroyed over 170 enemy ships with only one battleship. We proved that humans can stand against anything. Tell our families that we died with honor. Tell Earth that we never surrendered. And tell the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. End recording. Kang's voice came over the communication system. Captain, modifications are complete. The singularity drive is ready. At your command, I can activate the weaponized rupture. Stand by, Han replied. He looked at Park Min-ho. How many enemy ships are left? 140. They are maintaining distance, approximately 50,000 kilometers. They think they have us beaten. They are being cautious. Good, Han said. Let them think we are finished. Yuna, cease all weapons fire. Kang, reduce power to shields. Make it look like we are dying. Throughout the ship, weapons went silent. The shields flickered and weakened. The indomitable will began to drift slightly as if its engines were failing. From the outside, it looked like the human ship was finally giving up. The Vakrian Supreme Commander saw this on his tactical display and felt satisfaction. The humans had fought well, better than he had expected. But they were primitives. They could not defeat the might of the Vakrian Empire. All ships, he ordered, close distance. We will capture that ship and take its technology. Move in slowly. They may have one last surprise. But his confidence made him careless. He ordered all 140 ships to move toward the apparently crippled human vessel. They formed up in a tight formation, preparing to board the enemy ship. They came closer. 40,000 kilometers, 30,000, 20,000. On the bridge of the Indomitable Will, Captain Han watched them come. They are taking the bait, he said quietly. Kang, on my mark. Park, give me a countdown from 30 seconds. Ready, Captain, Kang said. His hand hovered over the activation control. All crew, Han said into the ship-wide system. This is it. Hold on tight. We are about to do something that has never been done before. If we survive, we win. If we do not, at least we tried. It has been an honor serving with all of you. The enemy ships came closer. 15,000 kilometers. 10,000. They were almost in boarding range. Now, Captain Han said. Kang pressed the activation control. The singularity drive, pushed far beyond its design limits, screamed with power. Reality itself began to tear. A sphere of twisted space-time exploded outward from the Indomitable Will, expanding at the speed of light. The sphere engulfed the human battleship and every single Vakrian vessel around it. 140 enemy ships, all caught in the same subspace rupture. Inside that sphere, the normal laws of physics stopped working. Space twisted. Time moved strangely. What should have been seconds felt like hours. The Vakrian ships, which had never been designed to enter subspace without proper shielding, began to come apart. Their hulls could not handle the stress. Molecules lost their bonds. Metal turned to dust. Ship after ship simply disintegrated, torn apart by forces they could not resist. The Indomitable Will fared better, but not by much. The ship shook so violently that it felt like it would tear itself apart. The hull groaned under impossible stress. Warning alarms screamed. Systems began failing. Hull integrity at 85%, Park Min-ho shouted. 78%. 70%. Captain Han gripped his command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. He watched the timer count down. 25 seconds left, 2015. Hull integrity at 60%, Park reported. We are losing structural cohesion. 55%, 10 seconds left. The ship continued to shake. Somewhere in the lower decks, a support beam snapped. 3 crew members died instantly, crushed by falling debris. But the ship held together. Hull integrity at 51%, Park said. Captain, we are right at the edge. Any more stress and we break apart. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. The subspace rupture collapsed. Space returned to normal. The shaking stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the sensors began reporting. Park Min-ho stared at his tactical display. His face showed shock, then disbelief, then something like joy. Captain, he said, his voice barely a whisper. They are all gone. All 140 ships destroyed. Around the Indomitable Will, space was filled with debris, not even large pieces. Just dust and fragments, all that remained of the once mighty Vakrian fleet. 312 ships had attacked. 0 survived. We won, Lieutenant Yuna said, and she started laughing. It was not happy laughter. It was the laughter of someone who could not believe they were still alive. Captain Han sat back in his chair. They had won. Against all odds, against impossible numbers, they had won.